Hello, I'm Deanna Kosaraju. I'm the founder of Global Tech Women, and welcome to Voices 2014. We hope that you are enjoying the last 26 sessions. We are now at session number 27, and this is one of my favorite talks because this technology and the possibilities for transformation are boundless. So I hope that you will take advantage of this opportunity and listen to Charlotte. And if you are half as excited as me about this kind of technology, I think you're going to find lots of potential ideas that you could leverage as technologists and as innovators. Coming from Linda's last talk, I think we're ready for this talk. So I think this is great. It's called One Connected World, and this is a group that Charlotte's going to be talking about, building a blueprint for universal internet, and who wouldn't want that? So with this, a couple of housekeeping items. I see a number of visitors here again. Hi, guys. It's amazing they do the little Martian thing for the visitors. I don't know what's going on with that. But visitors, you can't use the live chat because you're not logged in. But please, follow us on Twitter. Use the hashtag Voices2014. And if you have any questions, throw them out there, and I will make sure that Charlotte gets them. There's a chat window on the right-hand side for everybody else. If you've got questions, use the question box, and I will send them over to Charlotte. This link will be available as a recording 30 minutes after the session completes. So the way you got in here is the way that you'll view the recording. You can share those with friends and family and neighbors and anyone you think might be interested. And feedback is always welcome. And since the last time I said that, I got 2 ideas. So thank you so much for listening to me go on and on. I appreciate it. And I'm going to take those ideas and make them happen next year. So with that, here's Charlotte, amazing Charlotte, and I can't wait to hear this talk. And I'm going to put up her slides. Again, I know many of you have done this before. When this PowerPoint comes up, you can drag and drop it anywhere on the window. You control the slide. So when she says I'm on slide 4, you have to advance it to get to slide 4. She can't do that for you. So with that, Charlotte, take it away.
Thank you, Deanna. I really appreciate that. And, thanks for talking about things in Linda's talk right before. I'm a little more focused on our initiative, One Connected World, in this talk. Yesterday, my colleague Steve and I talked a lot more about gigabit technology. So I really encourage you to go back and check that recording. I'm very excited about it. This is something that I've been working on for 5.5 years, and we're finally just about ready to bring it out to the public, and we're very, 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 very excited about it. It's a really powerful technology that enables ubiquitous computing, and it basically breaks down a lot of barriers that current technologies have in the wireless industry, in the wireless functionality, and again, allows for ubiquitous computing, but it also takes care of some of the problems in the world where I think we have a stranglehold because we have a lot of gatekeepers to technology, and being able to get things out into the world and to proliferate for low cost and to be reliable and to reach everywhere is very, very important. And we just don't have technologies that can do that. We don't have technologies that can actually connect the world. And so it's a very enabling technology, and I'd love to talk more about it. You're welcome to ask me some questions about it. I'll talk a little bit more about the technology towards the end of the presentation, and then we can dive into it a bit more. I also just want to leave it open to everybody that I'm more than happy to connect outside of this conference. I love this platform, love Global Tech Women, but I'm also happy to have one-on-one conversations, so please feel free to contact me anytime. My contact info will be at the back of the presentation. So I want to dive into this sort of one connected world, and it's something that we're incredibly, incredibly passionate about. And one of the reasons that we spent so many years focused on what we were doing is because we didn't want to come to the world with a bunch of promises that we couldn't deliver on. That was really, really, really important to us. It was, part of our DNA. We had to be able to deliver results, and that's something that's special. I also don't think there are a lot of technologies in this world that can really make things change, that can move you from one era to the next. And we talked a little bit about that in yesterday's presentation, how we've gone through the mainframe computing and database eras of computing, and now we're in the device era of computing. But we need to get to that ubiquitous era, and that's what our technology does enable. And we really care about bringing it to the world. Our number one goal, the reason that we get up every day, is to ensure that the whole world gets connected. So there's a lot of great things that we're doing on the technology side. There's a lot of fun things that we're building. There are a lot of things that are amazing about the technology, but what is the best thing of all is what it will enable and what it can change. So I'm going to move over to slide 1, or slide 2. So change in the past. If you think about change and you think about folks who've made big change and how they write up history and you know what's going on, this is kind of what you see. See a lot of black and white. You see a lot of men. Did a lot of great things, and it was really fantastic. However, things are changing. On slide 3, people all over the world are making a difference. People from everywhere. Boundaries are falling. Women are able to move forward and do the things that they need to do, and technology enables a lot of this. We also, as women, enable each other. And, you know, you see things carrying over in families. You see things carrying across to actresses and astronauts and, you know, Deanna and Malala. There's change everywhere, and people are embracing it, people are recognizing it, people are seeing it. But we're still, you know, that's the one-on-one aspect. How do you become bigger? How do you become stronger? And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Moving forward a little bit, this is sort of a sneak peek at a bunch of the things that we're working on. We are actually working on a whole initiative, a website, some really robust tools and platforms that we can bring out. And it's really focused on talking about, you know, what is the digital divide? It's this inequality that happens in groups due to the lack of ICTs. We've spent the last several years focused on combing, I mean, literally combing through United Nations reports and the World Bank reports and trying to understand the ways that ICTs changes things. How does it change society? How does it open up opportunity? You know, a lot of people think that being connected to the internet, and this might be just a first world problem here, but, you know, is about playing games or connecting on the internet or being able to do email and whatnot. But people do all sorts of things. I don't think you realize, well, you guys probably do, but a lot of the world doesn't realize that, you know, your food from the time that it's picked and even while it's grown and cultivated all the way to the store and to your home, there's technology behind that. It's pervasive, it's everywhere. And mobile broadband subscriptions, they've climbed so high. I mean, it's just more people have mobile connectivity to now than they do fresh water and electricity. And that means that it's really important, it's fundamental. You can't change you can't change your stars, you can't change your future without connectivity. It's just as important as air and water and all the basics, food, clothing, and shelter. You've got to have that. So it's really important. So as we believe that it's a fundamental need, we believe that it should be a fundamental right for everybody. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation where we talk about the blueprint that we're setting up. So that was sort of the individual aspect, but there's this whole new drive for democracy. There's a resurgence of the democratic spirit. People are just naturally using technology to get together and do things. They want to democratize the internet. They're actually doing it without even thinking about it. They need to make something happen, and they use technology, and they don't even think about the fact that it's technology. They just use it to do what they need to accomplish. But you can't get to pure democracy because we don't have the infrastructure everywhere. Only, 40% of the world is connected. The internet as it is, it's just not enough. We need something that scales to the whole world. We need to be able to connect the whole world. And that's the questions we've been trying to answer. How can we take our technology? How can we take this new form of ubiquitous computing where capacity and bandwidth and range is no longer an issue? Moving on to the next slide. just kind of a glimpse of the crowd, what people are doing all around the world, whether it's Taiwan or China or Russia, or can't remember what the other one was, but people are uniting. Sometimes in 24 hours, they put the word out in China, and they're constantly having million-person marches. You can't stop that. And that's the power. That's the power of democracy in action. That's the power of when people get together and unite. But in order to be able to unite, you have to have that technology. On slide 7, when the world's connected, you can have those marches. You can crowdfund anything. You can crowdfund to build schools in Tanzania. You can crowdfund to, support somebody in your family who maybe needs a surgery or something. There are microloans that are out there now. I mean, there are just new crowd platforms that are popping up everywhere, and people are being empowered. Individual people that collectively come together and say, this needs to happen, and that sense of unity brings a focus that in many ways you can't have without information and communications technology. So again, it goes to that aspect that you have to have those ICTs in order to be successful in life, to move forward. Moving on to the next slide. It's not just about bandwidth and cheap access feeds. And, the decision of what the crowd wants from technology is what changes things. So I already talked about this a little bit, but, current technologies, they're finite. They're not designed to grow. They were solutions that were created, 802.11, back in the mid-80s. They were refined and brought out to the market in the 90s. They're great. They do amazing things. They've gotten us to where we are today, but they're not ubiquitous. They can't scale. We all know what that means. We've all had the, not being able to use our devices. We've run into capacity issues. We know this is a problem. I mean, you guys all work in the industry. You're probably just constantly trying to figure out how to deal with this in your day-to-day career, as well as in your family, at home, with your own connectivity. So it's just a big problem. And moving on to slide 9, I keep moving forward without moving my slides here. So today's networks aren't going to cut it. We need universal network. We need to get data to wearables. There are super high quality media things that we want to accomplish. We have amazing 4K screens, and we're shooting media, television shows and movies in 4K, but you can't stream that, and the world is mobile. We've already talked about that. The world is wireless, and when you don't have a delivery platform to get that sort of media, you're really putting a stranglehold on creativity. You're not able to get to the next level. And those demands are 365 days a year, 24/7 connectivity. So that's what we need. We need something that's going to scale. And the difference with our technology is the fact that you're not just building protocols, you're not just building applications, you're going into the architecture of the network, and you're building in connectivity into the DNA, into the fabric. We did a little deeper dive yesterday into our technology and what it's really about, and where it lives is in the physical layer. So if you think of the OSI model of networking, at that bottom most fundamental layer where the ones and zeros are transferred, that's where our technology works. So it's kind of like DNA. If you don't have the right, or whatever your blueprint is, whatever the components are of DNA, that's what you're going to get. You can never build, if you have the DNA for a duck, you can't build a goat. It just doesn't work that way. If you don't have the right plans, if you don't have the right blueprint for a skyscraper, then you're not going to get it done. So you have to go in and do that. And then when you build that and build it into all the areas of the network, that's the fabric of the network. You're not just sticking it as a bridge solution on the end. You're building it into the chips. You're building it into the infrastructure. You're building it into the applications. It's everywhere. So the future of ICT is in solutions that are able to contract and expand. They move and adapt on demand. They have to become fluid. It's the only way you can do ubiquitous computing. It's the only way that you can answer the needs that the world is saying that they have right now and into the future. Moving on to slide 10. So for us, what we think empowering technology is what we call fluid ICT. So, we started out with IT, and then as the internet grew and as we became more connected, we moved into the world of information and communications technologies. But that's still not enough. It has to be more fluid. With our technology, you have more of a 3D architecture, but a 4D delivery. So how we tend to describe that is it's kind of like a honeycomb. You have these, three-dimensional honeycomb spaces, and within that honey, what that honey actually is with our technology is the actual connectivity. So this allows for breathability, extensibility, the ability to harness multiple processors. You can do it on the fly. All the computing is actually enabled in the manifold. And this gives network architects the opportunity to do processing anywhere. You can have chip-to-chip communications. You can build that functionality into anything that you have that's wireless. So how do you get data wearables? How do you get data to your telematics? How do you do all these things? How do you connect the Internet of Things? How do you do machine-to-machine computing? You have to do it in a ubiquitous chip-to-chip communication fashion. And another really, really incredible aspect of fluid ICT is the fact that it's self-replicating and self-healing. And, what that means is you can put it anywhere. It's not like a mesh. A lot of people like to think about it like a mesh, but it's a little bit different. It's that honeycomb sense. It's got that 4D aspect to it. But if one thing goes down, it just completely... if one switch, for example, goes down, then another switch just reaches in and fills in that space, and connectivity, it does not stop at all. I've got about 10 million thoughts in my head right now and trying to figure out where to go. So let me just take a break real quick and see if there are any questions. No, I'm moving a little fast here. No, Deanna, I can't move my... Up there, no questions. Okay, moving on to the next slide. So, what this technology is going to enable is connectivity everywhere for everyone. And one of the things that we've done with this... Oh, there we go. Sorry. Having a problem, Deanna, with my... Probably user error. Where does the cloud fit in? So that's a good question. The cloud kind of fits in between all of these things. Remote access is done separately, but you can connect these wireless networks to the cloud. You can connect through the fiber ring, or you can connect directly through the wireless architecture. What do you mean? Do you have a more specific question? Sorry, I got a little lost in the actual. Okay. Regarding the cost of the cloud as an infrastructure. Sorry. So one of the aspects of our technology, because it's in the physical layer, you can do things with it that you were never able to do before. There are certain efficiencies that make it a lot more scalable, but it also allows for miniaturization, which is really, really, really critical in being able to do what we are trying to do. So we are an embedded technology. The way I explain that, I'm sure everybody on this session would know what an embedded technology is, but I usually compare it to Bluetooth. So we don't build chips, we don't build switches, we don't build routers, we don't build any of those things. Instead, we enable our partners to do this. And as we do that, with the efficiencies that are in that technology, we're able to microsize things. So some of the reference designs and the demonstrations that we've built out and the current technologies that we have 5 by 5 by 1 slice of a switch slice, and each slice has a 250 megabit per second dedicated bandwidth component into that, and it can fit in the palm of your hand. It costs less than $600, and it could replace an entire cell phone tower. When you think about those sorts of scales of economy, when you can take the computing power and up it, and you can scale to any amount of bandwidth that you want. So if you wanted to build 100 ports, you could build 100 ports. If you wanted to create stackable switches, if you wanted to build routers of any size, you could do whatever you want. There's no more being confined by the large size of equipment. There's no more sticking things on the end of the network. It's very, very, very simple. You just create the footprint that you want, or the slice, the switch, the different things that you want to create. And then you can deploy them. So it takes the cost of infrastructure down. And it also allows for software-defined networking. So when you take that ability to be able to move all of the network into the power of the software, you're able to basically do everything in the cloud. You're able to create very inexpensive devices. You're able to serve underserved populations with really inexpensive devices, so they can connect to the network, whether it's a local closed network or whether you connect it to the internet. So it becomes a very, very, very inexpensive cost. Did that answer the question? And please feel free to ask some more questions. I'm not as technical, but I still oh, here we go. That was. Thank you, Deanna. So, it's really good to actually talk about that, because that miniaturization and that ability to do those things, and the fact that it is such a cheap, very inexpensive technology to deploy, goes to the fact that we can connect the world. When you think about some of the other things, the other qualities that we enable in our technology, that also makes it very scalable. We can go 5 kilometers. Our signal can scale to 5 kilometers. Now that is really important when you're in remote locations. It's not as important in more populated areas. Capacity is a much more important issue to address. And when you're talking about capacity, having something that's small, that's scalable, is very important too. Another key component of our technology is that you don't need line of sight. It's based on radio software. I haven't talked about where our technology came from and how we got into it. I talked a lot more about, the power of the size and the physical layer, but we were actually stumbled on this. Our founder, Christopher Anderson, was building communications for NASA, DARPA, the Navy, etc., and he actually deployed the very first deep space network. So there was a problem with the communications between the Mars rover and the orbiter. They couldn't talk to each other. They had to wait, for every rotation to be able to pass back some information, and that information was really spotty. So maybe 1 hour a day you'd get some information, and that information, maybe 35 to 45 minutes of what was uploaded, was able to really give them an idea of what was going on with Mars. Well, he was tasked with looking at the physical layer and going all the way back into that DNA that we talked about, and to be able to make that technology work so there was more communications. And he actually ended up creating an error-free new protocol, and all of his technology is still used in the Mars program today. It's used in the space shuttle. It's used in a lot of different NASA communications. So that was sort of our history of where we came from. And in seeing that, he was able to spot some really unique properties in the physical layer, and to realize that there might be something further that he would want to develop. So I'm kind of digging back into our history a little bit more, but he spent another 3 or 4 years in his own research and development company, getting it to a place where it would be ready to commercialize. And that is when he finished all that, he started Redstone Technologies. That was 5 years ago. And ever since then, we have been working on taking that technology and putting it into a commercial format. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the technical readiness level scale, but the way NASA defines a technology being ready for commercialization is when it gets to TRL level 5. So we developed our technology over the last few years. We got it to TRL 5. We reached that about a year ago, and then we started really focusing on how are we going to take this to market. And that was sort of how we came into the One Connected World space. We have a lot of other programs that we're working on. One of the things that we didn't want to do was anything on self-healing networks. Sorry, I just saw this question here. What do you mean by anything on self-healing networks? I think the easiest way to say is because you have a long range, and go ahead and clarify the question if you have a little bit more specific. But because we have a lot of range, we can go 5 kilometers with our signal. You can blanket an area and switches. You can put them every half a mile, 2 miles, etc., and blanket a space with connectivity. It's really, really easy right now with our switches. We just put them up, and then you provision it on the network, and you provide dedicated bandwidth to all your users, and I'll talk about the dedicated bandwidth in a little bit. But what happens is that when a switch goes down, it just automatically sort of rebounds and connects to the next switch. If a switch is dead, it picks the path of least resistance and moves on to the next. So that's what we mean when we say self-healing. Yeah, so this is just sort of, yeah, exactly. So Diana said network technologies that detect errors, fix, or replace with minimum interruption or just so there's really no downtime. It just moves on to the path of least resistance. Same thing with the self-replicating. You just turn on another switch. You can have them deployed and not have them turned on, but if you need more bandwidth, just go in to your software, deploy it, and they just connect. Is there another question? Oh, thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to gather my thoughts. I forgot where I was. So in determining which way we were going to go to market, we really wanted to focus on bringing this out in as holistic of a way as we could. We could take the small startup route, but we have a really powerful technology. We have an enabling technology. We have a technology that can change anything, or everything, I should say. So what we're doing right now is we're working with large-scale companies in our early adopter partner program that are going to build our technology into their wireless products over the next 2 years. We are planning to make our technology available publicly in 2016. Until then, we're only partnering with those folks who have this vision for ubiquitous connectivity and who understand what this can mean, and giving them the ramp-up time to really prepare for the change in the market, for migrating the industry to gigabit. And so that's what we're focused on that level. We're also focused on creating a developer program that we're in pre-licensing for now. This gives developers the opportunity to create applications that will work with gigabit networks. And so the opportunities are just endless. The medical opportunities, the transportation. We're working with companies from all over the world right now and trying to identify which are the very first deployments, or which are the very first developments that we're going to go after. one of the neat things that we'll be doing, and this really is sort of a sneak peek at everything that's going on. We're planning to make some major announcements in the next couple of months. Probably the first ones will be starting in April, and then you'll hear a lot more in May as well as July. July is actually going to be the unveiling of our first public live network with lots of bandwidth hogging applications on there. So what we're looking to do is tax our wireless pipes, invite people to come in, test it, see what's going on. And then in the fall, we're actually planning our first 10,000 user live deployment that we will follow for the next year and report on results and do that while our partners are building our technology. So another question from Diana. What are the obstacles from telcos, for example, in deploying greater bandwidth to all? Seems like they have a vested interest in selling tiny increments instead of gigabit broadband. Well, Diane, let me tell you a funny story about the telcos. They do. A couple of things. It's really important for us, actually, that our technology enables everything and everybody. It sounds like, it's a dream, but that's really what we're hoping for. We don't want to disinclude anybody. That said, I think there are some things that need to change. When we very, very, very first started working on our go-to-market strategy about 3 years ago, as we were finalizing all of our engineering, we were actually working with the telcos. And there were 6 that we worked with for a while, and we were exploring what were the things that we could do with our technology. And we were sitting in the offices of one of the largest operators in the US, and we were talking about bandwidth, and the CEO said to us, "We don't need bandwidth. My customers don't want bandwidth. They don't care about bandwidth." And it was kind of mind-boggling, and he gave a great example. He gave an example of a couple of neighborhoods where they decided to build to double the bandwidth that was available to the folks in the last mile, and to give them double the bandwidth for $5 a month more. And customers didn't take that up. They didn't bite on it. So he said, well, they don't want it. We're not going to give it to them. And we had a big realization right there in our go-to-market strategy that we have this incredibly enabling and empowering technology, and we didn't want to start with the gatekeepers. So there's a lot of gatekeeping that goes on in the telco world. Nothing wrong with telcos. I mean, they provide us connectivity, but there's not a lot of choice that we have. And if you look at things that are going on in the industry right now, there's just things in the headlines every day. You see companies strangling other companies. Media and content providers are strangled by a lot of things. A lot of freedoms are at risk. And we wanted to be a technology that would enable and that would push past that. So in our early adopter partner program, we do actually are talking actively with telcos. And we're talking with a lot of telcos outside of the US, actually. They're a lot further along, I think, in their thinking. There's a lot less of a gatekeeper mentality, and they're really open to where things need to go. So no, can't make any revelations of who exactly we're working with, but I'll just say that it's definitely the folks that are outside of the US are certainly a lot more open. Telcos they can completely take our technology, they can build it out into our networks. You can build our technology into any existing infrastructure. You don't have to change anything out. Or you could start all over, start from scratch, tear out the network. Not that you would do it that way, but you could tear out the network and put up a completely brand new network that is very low carbon footprint, has very low power requirements, again, has the self-healing, self-replicating aspects, can deal with the bandwidth and the capacity. One of the things I didn't talk about, I alluded to a few minutes ago, was the sense of dedicated bandwidth. It's something that is a really unique property to our technology. And what that means is when we're talking about all of our ports, the way our technology is um, we start with a 250 megabit per second port, and you can have any multiple of these that you want. But when you provision it, it's dedicated. It creates a secure pipe to whoever you've dedicated it to your customer, and that pipe can go all the way back, and stay within the network if it's a closed network, or it can be extended all the way back to the fiber ring, to any sort of backhaul to the internet. So that said, when you're not sharing a signal, things change. Everything changes. So there are just a lot of qualities about our technology that are very empowering. We'd love to have the telcos take it up. We'd love to work with them. We're actually working with some nonprofit organizations that are very close to the telcos. But we will also enable folks who are not telcos to become service providers. You could, potentially anybody could become service provider. And I think this is where that sense of a one connected world, and let me get into that a little bit more, that's one of the things that makes us so powerful. So you've got the technology that will deal with a lot of the issues that other technologies couldn't deal with: bandwidth, range, etc. But it's very, very, very inexpensive, and it's easy to deploy. So what we plan to do is, with the One Connected World initiative, and I'm just balancing on a fine line here of what I can talk about and what I can't talk about. We want to connect the world in 5 years. We believe that we can do it. It's something that's very low cost. It can proliferate easily. You just go create, hundreds of thousands of switches. We've looked at all sorts of ways of how we could get them out, and even into the most remote areas, even if you're helicoptering them in. Just any way you can do it. So it's such a small footprint, you can get it out there. What we're currently looking at now is how do we deploy satellite centers to disperse that technology, and through it, how do we provide free or very low cost training to all of those areas, and it's very, very easy to learn. It's almost plug and play once you've got the technology created, or the product created. We want to put this also, the power, in the hands, not the heads, of the people. Because I think when people want something really bad, they band together and they make it happen. They don't allow for it to not get out there. And that's another reason that we sort of haven't talked about this just yet. And this was a little bit of a sneak preview. I think we're planning to announce One Connected World and how that will work a little bit more in April. And our plan is over the next year to create a large movement of people who get behind this, who come to us and tell us their stories and tell us, these are the challenges that we're facing in these areas. These are the things that we need to get technology here, because there are a lot of hurdles to overcome. Even when you've overcome the technology barrier, there are local governments and other governments. And by the way, we are now getting calls from heads of state all the time. Everybody recognizes the fact that when you have ICT in place, your society runs better. You can connect your populace to educational opportunities. You can help them live better lives. Your gross national product, goes up. And it just changes everything. So, this is a real grassroots initiative on behalf of Redstone. So, Redstone is really focused on the technology capabilities. And the reason we created this initiative is because we absolutely believe that the crowd needs to pick up this movement and say, we need universal internet. We are not going to settle for anything less. It has to become a basic human right and need. One of the things, back on slide 12, we talked about making the internet a basic human right. And I think I said earlier, one of the things that we've done is comb through a lot of things a lot of reports that the UN and the World Bank has has brought out. And one of the tactics that we're probably going to employ is petitioning the UN to make the internet a basic human right. So when you put together an initiative like One Connected World, what is the power of the crowd? Well, if you've got the crowd behind you to make the internet a basic human right, to make connectivity a basic human right, then you can move the dial a whole lot more than if you're a little company that doesn't, that has a vision but doesn't have a way to get it out there. So we need to get this into the hands of the people. And yes, the net neutrality issues, I think that was back from a few minutes ago. Were you asking a specific question or talking about it? I think I alluded to it a little bit earlier when we were talking about the technologies. Oops. One of the big things that was happening in the last couple of months is that, Netflix was in the news every day. The net neutrality really not a good deal for them, not a good deal for the consumer. And you saw it was just everywhere. And the next thing happened, a couple of weeks go by, and Comcast and Verizon have got Netflix in a chokehold, in a stranglehold. So I don't want to call out any particular companies like I just did, but it is a big, big, big issue. And again, it's not an issue that a handful of people are going to solve. It's an issue that the entire world is going to solve, that the crowd is going to solve. So that's the importance of this initiative and what we're trying to do with it. We dream really big. I'm on slide 13. Basically talked about all of these things already. Where it's a grassroots initiative. You have a voice. You become a partner. We're going to create tools and a lot of great infrastructure that allows you to become an organizer. And this is on the grassroots side. If you go back and listen to the presentation yesterday on gigabit technology, you'll see that there are a lot of other opportunities for women in technology, for everybody, but it's a really important time, I think, for women to understand that they can get into this technology, that they should really pay attention to what is coming to market, because it's powerful. It is really powerful. It can enable you in your current job. It can enable you to understand the cutting edge of what's coming up. It can take you to the next level in whatever you want to do with your company. However, if you're a business owner, it can also help you there too, and even more so. And if you dreamed of becoming an entrepreneur, but you didn't necessarily know how you were going to do that, this is a great opportunity to start asking the questions and start listening and seeing the things that come up, start to engage with Redstone, and there will be a lot more. There's not a lot that's out there just yet, but we're right on the cusp of that. Of things that we have thought about really long and really hard, of how we get things, how we open opportunities up. Okay, I'm going to take a moment for another question here from Rose. I can see small rural areas of the U.S. which are currently so underserved really jumping on board to this type of thing, even building the infrastructure themselves at a low cost point. Absolutely. We're talking to municipalities all over the U.S. Google Fiber is great. Google Fiber did a lot of things, but it left a lot of people really, really hungry. Can't tell you how many mayors and community organizations that have come to us that have just started to hear about what we're doing and said, can we get on your list? We don't care if we have to wait a couple of years. We'll get on your list. But what can we do now? And so one of the things that we'll be doing in the fall, I think I alluded to that, is that we would be putting out our first deployment, and we're actually in the process of figuring out where that's going to be. So it's going to be a 10,000 user demonstration, a 10,000 user use case. It'll run for 9 months, and it'll be something that we do very open and very publicly. So that's another key aspect of what we're doing. We worked kind of in secret for a really long time because, again, we didn't want to come to market before we were ready to come to market. But now that we're there, we want everything to be completely open, completely transparent. And I absolutely agree. It will be very interesting to watch. Let's see. Moving on to the next one. So how can you get involved? right now, pre 6 8 weeks before we're announcing some bigger things, you can share your stories, your thoughts, and your ideas. I know this audience is globally dispersed around the globe, and everybody's facing something different. You guys probably have things that you run into that we have no concept of, or you could be running into things that we've thought of and we have some ideas and solutions around. We really want to know what you need, though. We really want to hear from people. We want to figure out how to scale this. That was another thing that we're trying to do. So really understand how we can scale One Connected World. I talked a little bit ago about kind of the entrepreneurship and what you can do if you're in your own company, but I can also tell you that within what we're doing, we're going to be hiring like crazy. We're going to be working with partners who are going to be hiring new people like crazy. We're talking to colleges already on what are the new courses that we can start to teach to get the next level of engineers to come out. So all this stuff is really, really a little bit early to be talking about in this talk, but it's just going to change everything. And we're really excited about that, and I can't wait to watch it too. Looking at slide number 15, just giving you some of our social media links. Here's my contact information. You're more than welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn, to email me, set up a time to talk with me. I'm willing to, I'm more than happy to talk with you and connect you with anybody in our company, somebody who can go much, much deeper into our technology. Slide number 16, just a few more resources. Go to our website. We've got a lot of information on there. We've got a lot of new things coming up soon. Check out our blog. We're launching two different platforms. One that we've talked about today is the kind of crowd platform, the world platform, how we can get individuals and organizations and different people who want to change the world all together, working together. But we also have this sense of how do you migrate the industry. And for that, we're creating the Global Gigabit Alliance. And that is a group that is a community of thought leaders and visionaries who are working more on the technical aspects. We're creating the GGA, as we call it, as to be this transaction-based platform where there's a lot of cross-pollination of ideas, where there's actually building the technology, taking our technology to developers and product developers, applications developers, etc., getting them a platform where they can work together to do things. We're creating different standardization definitions for what this technology will be. And we're working on answering certain questions like this. What is a deeply immersive media experience? What is a human interface? How do you get data to wearables? And what these things mean is when we're talking to the movie industry quite deeply today. Many heads of studios and chairmen of the boards and other folks who really understand what the business case for this technology is, how it can just change everything. When you talk to them and ask them what is a deeply immersive media experience, you get everything from how you can change the movie set and post-production of a movie to being completely wireless, to the actual end user experience where everything is automated, your whole entire experience. You can just do really incredible things. Our technology enables holography, so pretty soon you could be communicating instead of doing video conferencing like this. I could perhaps be a hologram that appears in the room with you. And that is not that far off, not with our technology. We're actually talking to people who are already working on those things. So that is one of the things that the GGA was really conceived of. And we're also talking about the human interface. What is that? That is being able to take this technology and remove the sense of technology to the background and bring human connectivity and natural communications to the forefront. So, even little things like interacting with an ATM machine. Not everybody in the world has seen an ATM machine, but if you had to do it, you can go and, put your put your PIN number in. It's still manual. For all that we know that, you know, technology has come so far, it's still very, very, very manual. And what if it were voice activated? What if it just recognized you, etc.? So we're really trying to define what is the human interface and how are the things that, you know, we create going to change the world, and how do you introduce that to populations and societies that have not had the opportunity to learn technology at all. And then I think I talked about this earlier in the talk of how do you get data to wearables? And you can answer that to anything. How do you get it to the Internet of Things? How do you connect everything? You got to have that chip-to-chip communications. You got to have ubiquitous connectivity. You've got to have networks that are always up. You know, so together we'll answer these questions within the GGA, and then we'll actively be building solutions and showcasing technology. Our current plan, when we fully launch in the next couple of months, is that every 3 months we will put on a new demonstration, and any new partners and developers that we're working with will have the opportunity to showcase the things that they're working on. So it's a really exciting time, and it's a program that was really designed to help not only proliferate our technology, not only give people an opportunity to cross-pollinate and create new and amazing things, but to also give them a platform. Those who are the risk takers, those who go out and do that stuff first, they're able to stand out above the crowd. Because right now, I mean, how do you stand above the crowd? You know, there are a lot of gating factors to creating new and cool stuff that's constantly competing with each other. So exciting times. Trying to move over here. Are there any other questions? Please ready the holodeck. Absolutely. I'd love to have a holodeck. I never thought that I would have that in my lifetime, but I definitely don't think it's far off. There are some great folks actually in Australia building some holodeck prototypes that we've met, and I'm sure all over the world. But it's fantastic to have the supporting technology to be able to see those things become a reality. Any other questions? Well, Deanna, it looks like, oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Diana. Looks like we've come to the end here. If you don't have any other questions for me, I'll turn it over to the next person. Thank you, Rose. So, okay, let me just ask here, since it looks like I still have the floor, what would you guys do with this sort of a technology? You know, we find sometimes people are just stumped when we first start telling them this is what we can do, and then we really do some deep diving into stuff. You know, they're like, wow. And what happens a lot is that people will walk away. They will walk away, and then they'll call us. Oh my gosh, we could do this. And oh my goodness, does this really do that? And it's just a lot of fun. It's really exciting. So yes, absolutely love the idea of having personal internet. I'm a complete sci-fi buff. I grew up on science fiction. Love it. Love to see making it a reality. Yes, taking the darkness out of the dark. I think we lost Diana. Is anyone else here giving a talk or doing anything else? Security implications. Well, we didn't talk about security implications. If you check out our website, you'll find some more enabling factors about our technology, including security. We have 4 layers of security, but I think the one that is most unique, the one that gets most people excited, for example, the movie movie industry, entertainment industry, anybody who has to secure data, is that our technology is what we call unobservable. Maybe a better way to describe it is that the signal is invisible. Where it plays in the physical layer, where we sit in the spectrum, is somewhere that nobody else is right now. So if you were to try to measure our wireless connectivity, or I mean a wireless signal, you would not be able to see it. There are other serialization, registration, and encryption technologies built into it as well. But as far as we know, this is probably the first instance of being able to actually secure the actual wireless transmission, due to the fact that it is unobservable. So the security implications are enormous. So Deanna says I have 3 more minutes. Talking a little bit more about some of the features of our technology. We open up 200 times more spectrum. So this is spectrum that is currently not used today. So that is something that is really very exciting. Talked about the range. I was going to mention something else, and I think I forgot. Well, I did forget. But it's just exciting. It's just a really exciting technology, really fun to work on, and really amazing to just watch all of the creativity that's unleashed, all the people that we're talking to see them come alive and come excited, and being able to plan for the cool things that are coming out in the future. Thank you guys very much for being here with me today. If you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to email me or reach out to us in any way. And enjoy the rest of Voices. I'll be tuning in for the rest of the day.
Session. Boy, Charlotte, see, you only thought you were going to take 30 minutes and you took an hour because we just pounded you with questions for at least 45 minutes. So I think it was incredibly informative. I learned a lot through the session, and I know everyone here did too. I hope that you will connect with Charlotte. As you can tell, she's a wealth of information. She knows this space like the back of her hand. So this is something you're interested in getting involved in, please contact her. I know a lot of people will be watching this recording. Charlotte's giving you her contact information. Get involved in this. This is the future. So thanks, Charlotte, so much for.
Thank you.
And we look forward to collaborating in the future.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye, everybody. Hey, I'll see you at the next
Bye.
Stacey Sargent's second session on inner critic, inner success. We're going to diffuse that inner critic, and we're going to create a plan to actually leverage that critic for our own good. So you have to come to this next session. I'll see you there.